Freedom Summer is back, y'all. Freedom Summer 2026 is a major nationwide voting rights and civil rights campaign. It was launched this June to combat recent legal rollbacks, the Calais decision, the gutting of the Voting Rights Act, driven by a massive coalition of over 275 partner organizations, including civil rights groups, labor unions, and faith communities. The movement echoes the historic 1964 mobilization through direct action, teach-ins, and intensive voter registration drives. The campaign also responds directly to current legal fights over gerrymandering and illegal mid-decade redistricting. Of course, when the Calais decision happened, it gutted Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The ruling effectively stripped federal voting oversight from several southern states overnight. In response, multiple state legislatures immediately began redrawing political maps to eliminate majority black voting districts. Led by groups like All Roads Lead South Coalition and the Black Power War Room, activists are broadening their platform beyond voter registration. They describe 5 core areas currently under systematic attack: voting rights, restoring ballot box access and challenging unconstitutional, racially gerrymandered voting maps; economic freedom, advocating for job security and fighting structural financial inequalities in minority communities; education, resisting attacks on diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives and preserving accurate Black history curriculum; housing access, demanding equitable housing opportunities and local infrastructure protections; community safety, protecting local communities from localized state overreach and targeted political extremism. This 2026 initiative is operating a multi-tier grassroots playbook across the country. High-profile rallies begin in mid-June, with thousands gathering for a historic march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma and a flagship rally in Harlem. Organizers are hosting continuous virtual mass meetings and local church revivals to build a long-term network of political organizations. Voter mobilization, parallel drives, including phone banking, letter writing. We still write letters? And community transportation networks are scaling up to register unrepresented voters. Modern freedom schools. Yes, groups like One Love Global are launching modern iterations of historical freedom schools, utilizing culturally responsive curriculum covering civic education and Black history. I love it. Just love it. You can find information about them on Facebook, where the title is "We Are Here to Build Upon the Blueprint That Was Built by Our Elders." People's World, Juneteenth 2026 launches Freedom Summer. And The Root, Freedom Summer 2026, activists launch Juneteenth Surge. You can sign up to volunteer for Freedom Summer 2026 directly through the official Black Power War Room Freedom Summer portal. Organizers have built a decentralized, highly accessible system, allowing anyone to join virtual actions from home or plug into regional operations. Freedom Summer in 1964 was when civil rights activists launched a massive voter registration drive to help Black Mississippians overcome systematic disenfranchisement. The campaign turned deadly because, of course, the KKK and the local police and the white supremacists, used bombings, beatings, and murder to terrorize volunteers and stop integration efforts. The summer's violence was largely driven by a fierce, organized resistance to the civil rights movement and the participation of hundreds of mostly white Northern college volunteers who traveled south to help. Mississippi had the nation's lowest rate of Black voter registration, largely due to poll taxes, I can't believe I'm going to say this, literacy tests, and violent intimidation. When the Council of Federated Organizations, led by groups like the SNCC and CORE, started organizing, segregationists viewed it as an existential threat to white supremacy. Duh. On June 21st, 1964, 3 activists disappeared. James Chaney, a local Black civil rights worker, Michael Schwerner, a white volunteer from New York, and another white volunteer from New York, Andrew Goodman. They were arrested by a local deputy sheriff for fabricated traffic violation, held in jail, and released after dark into the welcoming arms of the local KKK mob. They were brutally murdered, and their bodies were buried in an earthen dam, sparking a massive FBI investigation that shocked the nation. At least 6 murders of civil rights workers over the course of that single summer. Over 80 documented beatings of Freedom Summer workers, over 1,000 arrests of volunteers and local residents, 37 Black churches bombed or burned, scores of shootings and kidnappings. Business leaders and government officials also participated in economic violence, such as firing workers and evicting sharecroppers from their homes for trying to register to vote. However, the extreme violence and around-the-clock national media attention generated massive public outrage. The public pressure ultimately helped force Congress to pass the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And now here we are again. Anybody that's been paying attention, this isn't a surprise. We've seen the danger since Roe got overturned, and also the oral arguments about this case, about the voting rights. We knew that they were going to gut it. It doesn't make it right. Constitutional rights are constitutional rights. The Supreme Court is rogue. We need to pack the court. And if we don't have progressive candidates in there, now we will work with a progressive caucus behind the scenes if need be to get rid of these establishment Democrats. And if people haven't figured out by now, we're heading towards economic disaster. I mean, like, we're going to run out of gas entirely. We just won't have any anymore. This could be a huge global deal just because we have a bunch of religious fucking fanatics that are trying to live out a biblical prophecy. A prophecy from a book that was written by men and compiled by men, I believe, in order to subjugate women. But what the fuck do I know? I'm just some asshole on the internet.